You're not tired because life is hard. You're tired because you're at war with reality. Every day you resist what is. You replay conversations you can't change. You obsess over what should have happened. You try to force people to be who they aren't. And that constant mental resistance, it wears you down. It drains your energy more than any job, relationship, or crisis ever could. You think you're being strong by refusing to accept things as they are. You're not. You're just exhausting yourself. Reality is unbothered by your complaints. It doesn't bend to your will just because you wish it would. And the more you argue with what's in front of you, the facts, the pain, the imperfection, the more bitterness grows. That's where the slow, quiet depression starts. Not with pain itself, but with the refusal to face it. We were never taught this, but it's one of the hardest truths in life. Peace doesn't come from control. It comes from clarity, from seeing reality as it is, not as you wish it were. Suffering deepens every time you resist the truth. But the moment you surrender, not give up, but let go, you stop bleeding energy. You stop spiraling. You finally breathe. So if you want real strength, stop fighting what is. Start learning how to live inside reality without needing to rewrite it. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. The Taoist reminder: Taoism has a brutal but freeing truth. The more you resist what is, the more you suffer. The world doesn't wait for your comfort, your timeline, or your preferences. Things change, people leave, chaos shows up uninvited. And when you demand that life not be this way, you invite suffering, not because of what's happening, but because of your refusal to let it happen. Imagine standing in a river, water rushing past you. Most people don't try to move with the current, they fight it. They plant their feet, thrash against the flow, and scream at the water to slow down. That's what resistance looks like. It's not noble, it's not strength, it's just self-inflicted pain. Life is the river. It moves whether you approve or not. Dajin calls the alternative Wu Wei, effortless action. That doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, without forcing. It means flowing with life instead of shoving against it. Not passive, not lazy, just intelligent alignment with reality. But ego hates this because ego wants control. Ego wants guarantees. Ego wants the river to follow its map. And that's why most people suffer. Not because life is impossible, but because they refuse to let go. They cling to how they think things should be. They hold on to broken expectations, dead relationships, outdated stories. And when the river of life keeps moving, because it always does, they get dragged under. Drowning not because of the water, but because of the struggle. Peace begins the moment you stop demanding that reality change for your comfort. That doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you respond from alignment, not from panic. You learn to feel what's happening, accept that it's happening, and then choose your movement with intention, not resistance. That's Wu Wei, not emotional surrender, but psychological mastery. So ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you still fighting the current? What are you holding on to that's already moving away from you? The Tao doesn't punish, it doesn't reward, it just flows. The suffering, that's all you. And the freedom, that's available the moment you decide to stop clinging and start flowing. The cost of resistance, let's get clear. Resistance isn't noble, it's expensive. You feel pain and immediately think, this shouldn't be happening. You're alone and obsess over who should be there. You lose something and your mind loops. This isn't fair. But none of those thoughts help you. They don't heal you. They just keep you trapped in a version of reality that doesn't exist. A version where you think life owes you what you imagined. Every time you say this shouldn't be, you split your mind in two. What's real versus what you wish was real. That's the fracture. That's the tension. And when you live in that gap for too long, you start to feel unstable. Not because of the external situation, but because you're resisting the truth of it. You're not suffering because of what happened. You're suffering because you can't stop arguing with it. Depression doesn't always come from major trauma. A lot of the time, it comes from this constant internal war, trying to edit the past, control the present, or manipulate the future. It's like running mental software that never stops crashing. You're trying to live inside a fantasy where people don't leave, things go as planned, and discomfort never shows up. But that world doesn't exist, and trying to live there hurts. The more you resist, the more unstable you feel, like your mind is always slightly out of sync with reality, and that dissonance builds. It shows up as fatigue, fog, burnout, irritability, emotional detachment. You think you need motivation. What you really need is alignment. You need to stop fighting what is and start dealing with it directly. But here's the trap. You think accepting reality means giving up. It doesn't. It means stopping the lie. It means seeing things exactly as they are, clearly, painfully, without filters, so you can finally move forward. Acceptance isn't resignation. It's orientation. It's the moment you stop spinning and start facing north again, even if the road ahead is brutal. So ask yourself, where are you still clinging to should? Who are you blaming for a reality that already exists? What part of your life are you mentally editing instead of emotionally facing? That's where the fracture lives, and the only way to become whole again is to stop resisting what's already true. Pain isn't the problem. Your pain isn't the enemy. Pain is part of being alive. It's your reaction to pain that creates suffering. You fight it. You numb it with distractions. You deny it with fake positivity. You delay it by pretending you're fine. But every time you do that, you make the pain heavier. You stretch it out, you bury it, and buried pain doesn't die. It just festers. Here's the hard truth most people never want to hear. Pain is information. It's your body and your mind telling you something is real, something needs to be felt, something needs to be faced. When you avoid it, you don't escape it. You just force it underground. And what lives underground doesn't stay quiet forever. It comes back as anxiety, as depression, as burnout, as a quiet voice whispering something's wrong, even when everything looks fine. Instead of asking, how do I fix this? Try asking, what am I refusing to feel? Sit with that question long enough and something will crack open. Not in a dramatic way, but in a clear way. You'll start to see that most of your suffering isn't from the pain itself, but from your unwillingness to sit with the wound. We want healing without hurting, growth without grief. That's not how it works. Pain doesn't destroy you. Your fear of it does. The moment you stop resisting it, something strange happens. The pain moves. It flows. It hurts, yes, but it moves. It doesn't get stuck. It becomes a process instead of a prison. This is where emotional resilience is born, not from avoiding pain, but from learning to feel it without collapsing into it. But the culture teaches the opposite. It teaches you to hide it, to look put together, to keep producing, keep smiling, keep posting like everything's fine. And the more you perform wellness instead of facing pain, the more disconnected you become, not just from others, but from yourself. Depression isn't always a chemical imbalance. Sometimes it's spiritual suffocation. So here's the question. What pain are you still denying? What memory, truth, or emotion are you avoiding because it's inconvenient or ugly or too heavy? That's where your healing begins, not by fixing, but by facing. Until you do, no strategy will work. No book will save you. No one else can carry it. It's your wound, and only you can look it in the eye. Acceptance is not surrender. Let's be blunt. Accepting reality doesn't mean liking it. It doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean the pain was deserved. It just means you've stopped fighting with the facts. You've stopped bleeding energy into the past. You've stopped arguing with a moment in time that cannot be rewritten. That's not giving up. That's growing up. Most people confuse acceptance with passivity. They think, if I accept this, I'll stay stuck here. But the opposite is true. The longer you deny what is, The longer you stay frozen, you can't move forward if your mind is still stuck rewriting the last chapter. Acceptance isn't resignation, it's readiness. It's the moment you stop spiraling and finally face what's actually in front of you. You can still take action. You can still fight for better. You can rebuild, transform, evolve, but you can't do any of that while your mind is tangled in, "This shouldn't have happened." That phrase is emotional quicksand. It keeps you mentally living in a version of the world that doesn't exist. And the longer you stay there, the more powerless you feel. The truth is, the mind only begins to clear once you stop trying to edit the past and start owning the present. When you stop focusing on how things should have been, you create space to ask, "Who do I want to be now?" That's where healing lives, not in control, but in clarity. Not in fantasy, but in full contact with reality. Acceptance is an act of internal rebellion. In a world that encourages escape through screens, substances, and stories, choosing to face life as it is takes strength, radical strength. Anyone can run. Anyone can pretend. It takes a different kind of courage to say, "This is where I am. This is what happened. Now, what's next?" So ask yourself right now, what truth have you been avoiding because it's uncomfortable? What part of your life have you refused to face because it doesn't match the story you wanted? That's the wall. That's what's keeping you stuck. Tear it down, not by force, but by facing it. That's not surrender. That's the beginning of your power. Clarity is the gateway to peace. Once you stop resisting, something unexpected happens. Your mind gets quiet. Not instantly, not magically, but slowly, like a storm that finally burns itself out. The noise settles. The replays fade. The questions stop looping. For the first time in a long time, you can actually hear yourself think. That's not some mystical state. That's clarity. And most people haven't felt it in years. Clarity isn't found in books or motivational videos. It's not something you learn, it's something you uncover once you've cleared out the lies, distractions, and emotional debris. It's your natural state buried under years of mental chaos. And when it comes back, you realize something. You were never as lost as you thought. You're just loud. Peace doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means you're not at war inside yourself anymore. You're not trying to be somewhere else. You're not pretending to be someone else. You're not obsessing over what already happened or what might happen next. You're just here, clear, focused, present. And from that state, you actually know what to do. You don't need 10 steps. You just need silence. But let's be honest, clarity is hard to reach because it demands something you've been avoiding. Letting go. Letting go of your story, your need to be right, your desire to control what you were never meant to control. And most of all, letting go of the version of you that was built in reaction to pain. The strong but bitter one. The driven but frantic one. Clarity kills those false identities, and that can feel like death, but it's really the start of your rebirth. Peace isn't complicated. It's just rare, because clarity is rare. Most people would rather stay distracted than get honest. They'd rather scroll than sit with themselves, but not you. If you've made it this far, it means something in you is done with the noise, done pretending, done running. Now you're ready to face what's real, and that's where peace begins. So here's the invitation. Don't chase more, chase less. Strip away the drama, the noise, the mental clutter. You don't need to add, you need to subtract. Because when the unnecessary fades, what's essential finally has room to rise. You're not broken. You're exhausted because you've been fighting reality, wrestling with what is instead of flowing with it. Taoism teaches us that resistance only deepens suffering. Like thrashing in a river, the more you fight the current, the faster you drown. Pain isn't your enemy, your refusal to face it is. Every moment you reject reality, you fracture your mind, living in a fantasy where things should be different. That resistance breeds bitterness, depression, and a quiet exhaustion that no motivation can fix. Acceptance doesn't mean surrender or weakness. It means stopping the war inside your head and turning your focus toward what you can shape now. It means releasing the past without erasing the lessons and choosing clarity over chaos. And clarity, real clarity, is where peace begins. It's the moment when the noise fades, the mind stops spinning, and you finally see yourself and your life with brutal honesty. From that place, you stop fighting and start living. So stop arguing with the truth. Stop demanding the river change course. The freedom you seek starts when you flow with reality, not against it. If you're ready to stop the fight and find clarity, start here. Embrace the process. Face the pain. Accept the truth. Because peace isn't given, it's earned.